Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Professor of Communication at MacU, and I'm here with a couple of announcements for the COM 2803 Multimedia Storytelling course. We've been working through some advanced responses to predicted questions that we anticipate students would have in the course. So I like to refer to this as a video syllabi series where we can give students a different way to interact with information about the course, not just have to read, reread, or avoid reading information. So this first video, I'm going to talk about the major book or textbook for the course, trying to use the T word. In comm classes, we really like to help students step outside traditional boundaries with many of our reads, with many of the choices that we select, because we want to help students develop and practice strong reading habits while they're in school, because these are helpful tools that naturally build our critical thinking skills, which leads to improving our ability to problem solve. And we totally get that we're increasingly a culture that does not read, and that's by choice and by practice, right? When we say culture, it's kind of conditioned into the status quo. Well, guess what? Great leaders stay pretty literate, and I think there are more advantages than disadvantages to reading, even if you're not a quote unquote reader. So we try to introduce a number of reads. Well, guess what? In this course, there's most of the work, the labor that you'll produce in multimedia storytelling is applied. That is to say, you're working on projects, you're developing videos and things like that. One could get through so much of the content of the course in terms of assignments without necessarily having to sit down and painstakingly turn page after page. However, it's set up as a 2000 level course, and we're approaching it as an introduction to a subject matter. And folks that need an introduction to a subject matter need some guidance. And so we do have a primary text for this course. Here it is. I'm going to read it. I'm going to show it, and then build a case, talk about why it's valuable. This is multimedia storytelling for digital communications in a multi-platform world. Okay, this version is second edition. Editions will abound over time, all right? But it's from Seth Gittner, and the title's right in the book, right? It's about multimedia storytelling. This is the multimedia storytelling course. So there's going to be clear synergy between content in the book and what you're working on each week. If you're not literate to that world, then the book, you can think of it as essential. It's helping fill in those gaps and give you a primer. And so these chapters are going to be really relevant. I hope that you approach it and not think of it as a textbook, but as a learning manual. We try to pick a manual, I'm just calling it a manual for fun, that's reader friendly, and it's full of nourishing. If you'll just look through, each chapter emphasizes key terms, and if you're say information literacy on multimedia storytelling and media production is low, it's going to give you a word bank, right? It's going to help build up some of the most common terms that we use and that you would continue to use if you're working in multimedia storytelling. That's right. We're not just having a fun story time in this course. We're helping train up that next generation of professionals, and books like this will go a long way in also filling the gaps of you're operating asynchronously online, and we don't always have all that classroom time for Q&A. And honestly, it doesn't work as well to just explain everything. Sometimes we want to take on more independent approaches to learning. This book is going to be excellent in doing that. It's going to solve a lot of problems, it's going to answer a lot of questions, and hopefully calm a lot of nerves. So that's an introduction to the book, Multimedia Storytelling for Digital Communicators in a Multi-Platform World. And we're excited to get into this, examine it. It's in our newly updated course. This is a relatively recently updated class that we're excited to present to you from Seth Gittner. and I'll be reading it alongside, looking for ways to draw those connections. If you're reading it steadily, in the pockets of time you can devote to that, then you too will be making those connections, and perhaps that will provide some of the content that works its way into things like our, I believe we call it our video docu-series, which is really a blog about your course project progress. And I'll talk more about that in a separate video, but for now, that is our introduction to the textbook in COM 2803, Multimedia Storytelling.